The sun was dipping low over Ranch Lake, painting the water gold, when Karen's shrill voice shattered the calm. "You're trespassing. I'm calling the cops," she barked, her manicured finger jabbing at my wife, Lila, who stood frozen by our small fishing dock. Lila, in her faded overalls, clutched a rake, her face a mix of confusion and dread. Karen, draped in a fur coat despite the warm evening, smirked with the kind of superiority that could sour milk. She'd stormed onto our property, claiming our dock was an eyesore and ruining her view from her lakeside mansion. Before Lila could explain that we'd owned this patch of land for a decade, Karen was already on her phone, demanding the police arrest this filthy squatter. I watched from the porch, my blood boiling. Karen had moved into the lake's ritziest estate 6 months ago, and since then, she'd made it her mission to terrorize anyone who didn't fit her vision of class. She complained about our chickens, our wildflower garden, even the way our truck's tires touched the gravel road. But this? Calling the cops on Lila for tending our own land? That was a new low. Karen paced, her heels clicking as she tossed accusations like grenades. These people are vandals. They're destroying the lake's value. I want to shout back, but Lila caught my eye, shaking her head. She knew arguing with Karen was like wrestling a pig in muddy. You'd just get dirty, and the pig would love it. The truth unraveled faster than Karen's composure when the police arrived. 2 officers, a grizzled veteran named Officer Daniels and a younger recruit, stepped out of their cruiser. Karen strutted toward them, her voice dripping with entitlement. "Arrest her," she demanded, pointing at Lila, who was quietly explaining that this was our property, deed and all. Daniels raised an eyebrow, his gaze shifting to the fishing net Karen had torn from our dock and the garden patch she'd trampled in her tantrum. "Ma'am," he said to Karen, "you're standing on their land. Care to explain why you're damaging their property?" Karen's jaw tightened, but she doubled down. "Their land? This dump? I'm the president of the Lakeside Homeowners Association. I decide what's allowed here." That's when the twist came, sharp and unexpected. The younger officer, who'd been silent, stepped forward, holding a tablet. "Ms. Karen Whitaker?" he asked, his tone oddly formal. She nodded, smirking, expecting deference. "You're the one who filed the complaint last week about the community boat launch, right? Said it was unsightly and demanded it be shut down." Karen's smirk faltered. "Well, yes, but—" "Ma'am," the officer interrupted, "that boat launch is funded by the county, and your complaint caused a maintenance delay. Fishermen couldn't work for 3 days. You're not exactly popular around here." The crowd that had gathered, neighbors, fishermen, even old Mrs. Tate with her walker, murmured in agreement. I hadn't noticed them arrive, drawn by the flashing lights and Karen's theatrics. Mrs. Tate, who'd lived by the lake for 40 years, piped up. She tried to ban my grandkids' lemonade stand last month. Said it was a public nuisance. The murmurs grew into a chorus of grievances, each one chipping away at Karen's throne of self-righteousness. The confrontation hit its peak when Officer Daniels asked Karen to step back from the dock. She refused, planting her feet like a toddler in a tantrum. "You can't tell me what to do," she snapped. "I'm the chief around here." Daniels exchanged a look with his partner, a glint of amusement in his eyes. "Chief, huh?" he said, his voice slow and deliberate. "Well, Chief, let's talk about criminal mischief. You've admitted to damaging their property and it's torn, gardens ruined. That's a misdemeanor minimum." Karen's face froze, her eyes wide like a deer caught in headlights. The word chief hung in the air, mocking her. She stammered. "Two didn't mean it was an accident." But the officers weren't buying it. They'd seen the trail of destruction, and the neighbors' stories painted a clear picture. Karen wasn't just a nuisance. She was a one-woman wrecking crew. As the officers documented the damage, Lila quietly handed them our property deed, her hands steady despite the chaos. I marveled at her calm. She'd always been the anchor in our storms. Karen, meanwhile, unraveled. Her voice cracked as she tried to spin a new story. "I was just protecting the lake's aesthetic. These people don't belong here." But the neighbors weren't having it. Mrs. Tate hobbled forward, her voice sharp as attack. "You don't get to decide who belongs, Karen. This lake's for all of us. not your personal kingdom. The crowd cheered, and for the first time, Karen's mask of superiority slipped. She looked small, her fur coat sagging like a deflated balloon. The officers gave Karen a choice: apologize and pay for the damages, or face charges. She chose silence, her lips pressed into a thin line. Daniel sighed, jotting notes. "All right, Ms. Whitaker, we'll be in touch about the fines. And next time, maybe check the property lines before you play vigilante." As they escorted her to her car, the neighbors erupted in applause, not for the police, but for Lila, who'd stood her ground without raising her voice. Karen's Mercedes peeled out, leaving a cloud of dust and her reputation in tatters. By the next morning, the lake buzzed with the story. Karen's HOA presidency was revoked in an emergency meeting, her name now synonymous with that woman who got schooled. Lila and I repaired the dock, laughing as we patched the net. Mrs. Tate brought over her grandkids' lemonade, and we toasted as small victories. The lake felt lighter, like it could breathe again. Looking back, it wasn't just about a dock or a garden. It was about standing up to someone who thought they could bully their way to control. Karen thought she was untouchable, but the lake community proved her wrong. It's a reminder: no one's above accountability, no matter how loud they shout or how fancy their coat. What do you think wears the line between standing your ground and stirring trouble? Share your thoughts, because stories like this belong to all of us.